For 21 days, the Japanese army hunted a man they believed didn't exist, until 116 soldiers were suddenly dead. At 0430 on January 9, 1942, Captain Arthur Wormuth crouched in a foxhole on the Ibuke line in Bataan, watching Japanese troops mass for another assault barely 400 DOA. 26 years old, 12 days of combat since Company D took position. 37 men left from 150. The Japanese 14th Army had landed 65,000 troops on Luzon. General Homa's forces pushed south relentlessly. MacArthur's defenders fell back to Bataan Peninsula. 78,000 Allied troops, mostly Filipino reservists, with 3 weeks' training. The Japanese knew victory was inevitable. By early January, Wormuth's battalion had lost 113 men. Most died in the first 72 hours. The pattern was always the same. Japanese scouts infiltrated at night, found American positions, called in coordinates. Artillery struck at dawn, infantry advanced, American units retreated. The cycle repeated. Wormuth was different. Former football player from South Dakota, Northwestern Military Academy, graduate, civilian conservation course trainer, who learned wilderness survival in Michigan forests. Commissioned 1936. Active duty January 1941. Sent to Manila to train the 57th Infantry Regiment Philippine Scouts. Promoted to captain December 19th, 3 days before Japanese bombers hit Clark Field. Company D positioned north of the main defensive line. Wormuth watched his scouts die, 11 men in 5 days. Japanese snipers, mortar fire, machine gun ambushes. The enemy moved like ghosts through jungle terrain. American forces never saw them coming, never got clear shots, never inflicted serious casualties. The mathematics were brutal. Japanese forces killed 3 Americans for every Japanese casualty. At that rate, Bataan would fall in 6 weeks, maybe 4. The Philippine scouts fought harder than regular army units. Better jungle training, knowledge of terrain, loyalty to homeland, but they lacked ammunition, lacked artillery support, lacked air cover. Japanese Zeros controlled the skies. Wormuth studied the enemy's methods. Japanese patrols moved in columns, 20 to 30 soldiers. They followed established trails, crossed ridge lines at predictable points, set up forward observation posts in abandoned villages. Their confidence grew with each American retreat. They stopped posting rear guards, stopped checking their flanks. On January 5th, Wormuth made a decision. Defense was suicide. Retreat was surrender. The only option was attack. Not battalion-strength assaults, not company-level operations, individual infiltration, solo reconnaissance. One man could move where platoon could not. One man could kill without being seen. One man could make the Japanese afraid. He assembled 185 Filipino volunteers, called them suicide snipers, not a formal unit, no official designation, just men willing to hunt instead of hide. Wormuth trained them in counter-sniper tactics, taught them to move silently, to strike without warning, to disappear into jungle shadows. The first mission was January 6th. Wormuth went alone. A Philippine scout outpost sat isolated 3 mi behind Japanese lines, surrounded by thousands of enemy troops. No radio contact for 36 hours. Headquarters assumed the position was overrun. Wormuth volunteered to confirm. If you want to see how Wormuth reached that isolated outpost through enemy territory, please hit that like button. It helps us share more stories like this one. And please subscribe. Back to Wormuth. He moved at midnight. Thompson submachine gun, 2 .45 caliber pistols, 6 grenades, mud on his face, leaves on his helmet. He crawled past Japanese sentries, slipped between enemy camps, reached the outpost at dawn, found 12 Filipino scouts alive, hungry, low on ammunition, but holding position. Wormuth stayed 2 hours, assessed their situation, plotted Japanese positions, then crawled back through 3 mi of enemy-controlled jungle, returned to American lines with intelligence. 12 outpost defenders held for another week before withdrawal orders came. That mission proved the concept. One man could operate behind enemy lines, could gather intelligence, could survive. But intelligence gathering was not enough. Vermouth wanted casualties. He wanted Japanese commanders looking over their shoulders. He wanted enemy troops afraid to sleep. On January 9th, headquarters ordered the destruction of Calagwaman village and bridge. Japanese forces controlled the area, used it as a staging point for attacks south. The bridge allowed rapid troop movement. Artillery observers occupied village buildings. Destroying both targets would delay the Japanese advance by days, maybe weeks. The mission required infiltration through enemy positions, carrying gasoline and explosives, setting fires, detonating charges, then escaping through alerted hostile forces. No one volunteered. Vermouth stepped forward before the briefing officer finished speaking. He would leave before dawn alone. Vermouth prepared the equipment at 0300, 2 5-gallon gasoline cans, 20 lb of TNT in canvas satchels, detonator cord, matches wrapped in waxed paper, his Thompson, both pistols, 4 grenades. The load weighed 63 lb. He would carry it 3 miles through enemy territory. The plan relied on precise timing. Filipino artillery crews positioned their guns for a fire mission on Calagwan. They would watch the northern approach through field glasses. When smoke appeared above the village, they would wait exactly 5 minutes, then open fire. The bombardment would create chaos, give Vermouth time to reach the bridge, plant charges, escape during confusion. 5 minutes was the critical window. Less time meant artillery would kill him. More time meant Japanese troops would find him before he reached the bridge. Allied headquarters calculated he needed 240 seconds to cross 400 d of open ground. Set charges, detonate, start running. The math assumed no obstacles, no enemy contact, no complications. Weather conditions favored the operation, wind blowing from the north. It would push smoke toward Japanese positions, create larger visible plumes, carry flames through thatched roof buildings faster. But the same wind would spread fire unpredictably, block escape routes, trap Vermouth in burning streets. He moved out at 0415, darkness still complete, temperature 73 degrees, humidity 86%, jungle sounds normal, insects, night birds, distant artillery from the main line. He traveled southwest, parallel to Japanese patrol routes, not crossing them, not risking contact before reaching the objective. The first mile took 47 minutes. Vermouth crawled through elephant grass, skirted enemy campsites, heard Japanese soldiers talking, smelled their cooking fires, saw sentries silhouetted against campfires. They faced outward, watching for American attacks, not expecting infiltration from their rear. Calagwaman sat in a depression, one main street, 64 buildings. Most were Nepa huts, thatched roofs, bamboo walls, highly flammable. Japanese troops used them as barracks, sleeping quarters, supply storage, radio stations. The village had been evacuated. Filipino civilians fled when fighting reached the area. Now only enemy forces remained. Vermouth reached the village perimeter at 0540, still dark. He counted buildings, marked officer quarters by antenna positions, identified ammunition dumps by sentry patterns, located the bridge, wooden construction, 12 feet wide, 30 feet long. It crossed a ravine with a stream below, the only vehicle crossing point for 2 miles. Japanese forces numbered approximately 400 in the village, another 200 within supporting distance. Battalion strength enemy presence. Most soldiers slept, only perimeter guards remained alert. Vermouth watched guard rotations, noted timing, calculated routes through the village that avoided sentry positions. At 0610, he entered Calagwaman from the north, moved between buildings. The gasoline can scraped against walls, made soft metallic sounds. He froze, waited. No reaction, continued, reached the first target building, poured gasoline against the wall, moved to the next, repeated the process. 14 buildings, both gasoline cans empty. He worked methodically, building to building, staying in shadows. Japanese soldiers slept 15 ft away, separated by thin bamboo walls. Vermouth heard snoring, coughing, sleep sounds. One soldier got up, walked outside, urinated 10 ft from where Vermouth crouched, went back inside, never looked around. The sun rose at 0638. Wormuth was halfway through the village, still spreading gasoline, visibility increasing, risk multiplying. He needed darkness for concealment, but morning light revealed his position. Japanese troops would wake soon, begin daily routines, discover him. At 0652, he finished spreading accelerant, reached the southern edge of the village, 340 yards from the bridge. The TNT satchels felt heavier now. His shoulders etched, hands cramped from carrying metal cans, uniforms soaked with sweat and gasoline fumes. He struck the match. Flames erupted immediately, climbed bamboo walls, spread across thatched roofs. Wind carried sparks to adjacent buildings. Fire jumped from structure to structure. Japanese soldiers poured into the street, some burning, all screaming. Confusion immediate, total, exactly as planned. But Wormuth was still 340 yards from the bridge, and between him and the objective stood 240 Japanese troops now fully alert and searching for whoever started the fire. The first artillery shell struck Caligwoman at 0657, exactly 5 minutes after smoke appeared. Filipino gunners had perfect timing. The shell hit a building near the village center. Explosion threw burning debris across the street. Japanese troops dove for cover, stopped searching for the arsonist, focused on incoming fire. Wormuth ran, not toward safety, toward the bridge. 340 yards through chaos, buildings burning on both sides, enemy soldiers everywhere, some organizing defensive positions, others dragging wounded, most simply panicking. He stayed low, moved along the eastern edge of the street, used smoke for concealment. Artillery shells landed every 12 seconds. The barrage was working. Japanese forces assumed a major assault was coming, prepared to defend the village. Never considered one American might be running through their positions. At 200 from the bridge, a Japanese officer spotted him, shouted commands, pointed. 7 soldiers turned, raised rifles. Wormuth zigzagged. Bullets cracked past his head, impacted dirt, splintered bamboo. He kept running. The TNT satchels bounced against his back. Thompson swung on its sling. 150 yards. More Japanese troops joined the chase. 15, then 20, they converged from side streets, cut off potential escape routes. Wormuth was running into a closing trap, but the bridge was ahead. That was the mission. Everything else was secondary. Artillery rounds fell closer now. 1 shell landed 40 feet to his left. Shrapnel shredded a Nepa hut, set 3 more structures burning. The concussion knocked Wormuth sideways. He stumbled, recovered, kept moving. Smoke thickened. Visibility dropped to 30 FT, 70 yards from the bridge. Japanese machine gun opened fire. Sustained burst. 20 rounds, 30. The gunner was firing blind through smoke, hoping for a hit. Bullets tore through burning buildings, ricocheted off stone walls. 1 round passed 6 in from WWII's head. He dove behind a water trough, checked his route. The bridge was visible now, clear line of approach, but completely exposed. No cover for the final 60 yards. Japanese troops were repositioning, setting up firing lines, waiting for him to break from concealment. Wehrmouth pulled a grenade, threw it toward the machine gun position. Explosion silenced the gun. He ran again, 40 yards, 30, bullets everywhere. He felt impacts, tugging sensations, equipment hit. Canteen shattered, strap cut. Didn't matter, only the bridge mattered, 20 yards. Pain exploded in his left thigh. Bullet entry high on the leg, not bone, muscle wound. He stumbled, caught himself. Leg still functioned, kept running. Blood soaked his trouser leg immediately. Warm, sticky. The wound would slow him, but not yet. He reached the bridge at 0704, dropped behind the wooden railing. Japanese rifles fired continuously. Rounds hammered the bridge structure, splintered wood. 1 bullet grazed his shoulder, superficial. He ignored it, pulled the TNT satchels off his back, set them against the main support beam, unwound detonator cord. His hands shook, not from fear, from exertion. Carrying 63 pounds for 3 miles, running under fire, blood loss starting. Artillery continued pounding the village. Smoke obscured everything beyond 50 FD. Perfect cover, but also perfect concealment for Japanese troops moving closer. Wehrmouth heard boots on the road. Commands shouted in Japanese. They were coming. He lit the detonator cord, 45C secondon fuse, rolled away from the bridge, started crawling south away from the village toward jungle. His wounded leg dragged, left a blood trail in the dirt. No time to bandage it, no time for anything except distance. The explosion came at 07:05. The bridge disintegrated, support beams shattered, wooden planks flew outward. The structure collapsed into the ravine, completely destroyed. Mission accomplished. Behind him, Caligwomen burned. Bodies lay in the streets. The fires spread to ammunition storage. Secondary explosions rippled through the village. Filipino artillery continued firing. Over 300 Japanese soldiers died in the attack. Battalion-strength enemy force eliminated. The advance delayed, but Wehrmacht was 3 mi from American lines, wounded, bleeding. Japanese troops knew someone was responsible. They would search the jungle, hunt the infiltrator, and his blood marked an easy trail to follow through the undergrowth. Wehrmacht crawled to WWII before the bleeding forced him to stop. The bullet had torn through his quadriceps, entry wound high on the thigh, exit wound lower. Clean through, but blood pumped steadily, soaked his entire leg, pulled in his boot. He needed pressure, needed a tourniquet, had neither. He ripped strips from his shirt, tied them above the wound, pulled tight. The bleeding slowed, didn't stop. Field dressings would have helped. Sulfa powder, proper bandages. All his medical supplies were back in the foxhole on the Abukit line, 3 miles away. Might as well be 300. Behind him, Japanese search parties fanned out from Kajiman. He heard them, commands shouted, dogs barking. They had tracking animals. The blood trail would lead them directly to his position. No way to hide it. Every few feet, another dark spot on the jungle floor, perfect markers for pursuit. At 07:30, the first search party passed 40 yards north. 8 soldiers moving fast, following the trail. Wehrmacht pressed against the fallen log. Didn't move, didn't breathe, they walked past, continued east. Wrong direction, the blood trail confused them. Wind scattered the scent. Dogs pulled handlers toward older blood drops away from his current position. But more parties were coming. Systematic search patterns sweeping south from the village. Wehrmacht needed to move, needed distance. His leg wouldn't cooperate when he tried to stand. Pain whited out his vision. Leg buckled. He fell, landed hard, gasped, bit his lip to stop sounds. Crawling was the only option. Slow, agonizing. He moved south toward the Abuk line, made 40 yards in 20 minutes, left a continuous blood smear. Any tracker could follow it. Speed versus stealth. He chose speed. Staying ahead of the search was survival. Hiding was death. At 08:00, a second patrol found his trail. 3 soldiers, young, excited. They followed the blood smear, moved quickly, closed distance fast. Wehrmacht heard them behind him, 50 yards, 40. They were talking, confident, anticipating an easy capture. He rolled behind a termite mound, drew his .45, waited. The soldiers approached, rifles ready but not aimed. They expected a wounded man, helpless, unable to fight. The first soldier came around the mound. Wehrmacht shot him in the chest, point blank. The report echoed. Second soldier turned, brought his rifle up. Too slow. Wehrmacht fired twice, both hits. The man dropped. Third soldier ran, scrambled back north, shouting. Wehrmacht couldn't pursue, could barely move. The gunshots would bring more patrols. Every Japanese soldier within a mile heard them, knew the approximate location, would converge rapidly. Wehrmacht had maybe 5 minutes before they arrived in force. He crawled faster, ignored the pain, ignored the fresh blood flowing from reopened wounds. Survival required movement. 200 yards further, the jungle thinned. Rocky ground, less cover, more exposure, but also less undergrowth, easier crawling. He made better time, 100 yards, 200. His vision blurred, shock setting in, blood loss accumulating. His body was shutting down, automatic response to trauma. At 08:40, he reached the stream, shallow, fastum moving. The water was cold, clear. He dragged himself into it, lay face down, drank. The cold shocked his system, cleared his head slightly, slowed the bleeding. not a solution, a temporary measure. Japanese voices echoed through the trees. Multiple patrols coordinating, closing the search area. Vermouth was surrounded, not formally, not with established perimeter, but enemy forces were on all sides, moving inward. Every minute the circle tightened. He climbed out of the stream, continued south, 500 Y-D from American lines, might as well be 500 M. His leg barely functioned, left arm numb, shoulder wound worse than he thought. Blood loss severe, vision tunneling, consciousness fading. At 0900 he heard American voices. Filipino scouts 50 yards ahead. Safety, he tried to call out. His voice failed. Throat too dry, he tried again, barely a whisper. They wouldn't hear, couldn't hear. We're moving away. Behind him, Japanese troops crashed through undergrowth. Close now, very close. Wormuth was trapped between salvation 50 yards ahead and death 20 yards behind. He had no strength left to crawl, no voice to call for help, no options remaining except to lie still and hope the Japanese missed him in the jungle shadows. A Filipino scout named Domingo Santos saw the blood trail. 23 years old, 3 months with the 57th Infantry. He followed it into the jungle, found her collapsed against a tree, unconscious, leg wound still bleeding, pulse weak, breathing shallow. Santos fired 2 shots in the air, signal for help. 4 more scouts arrived within minutes. They carried Wormuth, 2 men supporting each side, moved quickly toward American lines. Japanese patrols heard the signal shots, changed direction, pursued. The scouts ran. Wormuth's weight slowed them. They refused to leave him. They reached the Abukit line at 0923. Medics took over immediately, applied tourniquets, pressure bandages, started plasma. The bullet had severed muscle tissue, damaged nerves, missed the femoral artery by half an inch. That miss saved his life. Arterial wound would have killed him in minutes. Field Hospital number 1 received Wearmouth at 1,000 hours. Doctors cleaned the wounds, removed fabric fragments, bone splinters, debris. No anesthetic available, supply shortages. He stayed conscious through the procedure. Bit down on leather, endured. The shoulder wound was superficial. Bullet grazed the deltoid. Tore skin didn't penetrate deep. Stitches closed it. The leg required surgery. Doctors repaired torn muscle, reconnected tissue, sealed blood vessels. The operation took 90 minutes. Wearmouth received the last morphine dose in the hospital supply. Recovery began immediately, no time for extended rest. Hospital beds were needed for new casualties. Japanese attacks continued daily. Fresh wounded arrived hourly. Wearmouth was stable, conscious. That made him low priority. He understood, accepted it, asked only for updates on the Caligwomen mission results. Intelligence reports confirmed the damage. The bridge completely destroyed. Impossible to repair without heavy equipment. Japanese advance halted for 6 days while engineers built a bypass route. 316 enemy soldiers killed in the village. Another 87 wounded. Battalion-level casualties from one man's infiltration. General MacArthur sent commendation. Authorized Distinguished Service Cross. The citation detailed extraordinary heroism, actions beyond normal duty, personal risk, strategic impact. Wearmouth received the medal in his hospital bed pinned to his bloody uniform. No ceremony, no audience, just acknowledgement of what happened. By January 15th, he could walk badly with crutches. Doctors ordered 6 weeks recovery minimum. Wearmouth gave them 6 days. On January 21st, he left the hospital against medical advice, returned to his unit. The legs still hurt, limited mobility, reduced speed, but he could move, could fight. That was enough. The suicide snipers had continued operations during his absence. 185 Filipino volunteers operating in small teams, ambushing patrols, eliminating scouts, creating fear. They reported 93 confirmed Japanese kills in 12 days, lost 7 of their own. The exchange rate was working. American forces needed every advantage. Wearmouth resumed command on January 22nd. The leg wound affected his mobility. He couldn't crawl distances anymore, couldn't run, couldn't execute solo infiltrations like Caligwomen, but he could plan, could lead, could coordinate attacks from closer positions. The suicide snipers adapted tactics, smaller teams, shorter penetrations, focused on specific targets. Japanese officers, radio operators, machine gun crews, headquarters staff, high-value eliminations, maximum disruption. They studied enemy patterns, identified vulnerabilities, exploited them ruthlessly. Between January 22nd and February 3rd, Wehrmath personally participated in 17 operations, not solo missions anymore, team leader, usually with 3 to 5 scouts. His role changed from lone infiltrator to tactical commander. But the results continued. 41 Japanese soldiers killed in those operations, another 63 by other suicide sniper teams. The Japanese command recognized the pattern. American counterattacks were too precise, too well-informed. Someone was gathering intelligence, conducting reconnaissance, operating behind their lines. They increased security, posted more sentries, established roving patrols, changed routes daily, made operations harder. On February 3rd, Wehrmath led a team to burn a cane field near a buck. Japanese troops used it for concealment. The field was massive, 300 wide, long, perfect cover for infiltration. American forces couldn't see enemy movement. Artillery couldn't target effectively. The field had to go. 5 scouts accompanied Wehrmath. They carried gasoline matches. The wind was right, blowing toward Japanese positions. They reached the field at dawn, set fires along the northern edge. Flames spread rapidly. Dry cane burned hot, fast. Smoke filled the area immediately. Japanese soldiers fled the field, running from flames. 207 enemy troops emerged, completely exposed. American machine guns opened fire from prepared positions. Artillery struck the open ground. The cane field became a killing zone. Every Japanese soldier who entered seeking cover died. Everyone who stayed burned. But Wormold's personal kill count was only 78, 38 short of the 116 credited to him, and the most dangerous missions were still ahead. Time magazine published the story on February 23rd. Headline read, One-Man Blitz. Article described Kalagaman operation, detailed the suicide sniper teams credited him with at least 116 Japanese dead. The number came from intelligence estimates, confirmed kills plus probable casualties. American public needed heroes. Wehrmath became one. The article spread through military channels, reached Japanese command. They translated it, studied it, identified Wehrmath as primary threat, increased bounty for his capture, issued orders to all forward units. Captain Arthur Wehrmath, 26 years old, Thompson submachine gun, operates with Filipino scouts. Capture alive if possible, kill if necessary. Japanese soldiers called him Baton Nade, Ghost of Baton, the name fit. He appeared without warning, killed, disappeared. Search parties found bodies, found blood, found evidence of his presence, never found him. The Ghost reputation grew with each operation. On February 7th, Wehrmath ambushed a Japanese patrol. 6 enemy soldiers moving through jungle terrain. Overconfident, no rear security. He followed them for 2 miles, waited for the perfect moment. They stopped to rest, clustered together. He threw a grenade, followed with Thompson fire. All 6 died. He disappeared before reinforcements arrived. February 12th, Japanese communications wire ran along the front line. They tapped into American radio traffic, monitored frequencies, predicted movements. Wehrmath and Sergeant Crispin Jacob volunteered to find the tap, destroy it. They searched for 6 hours, found the wire splice hidden in dense undergrowth, cut it, eliminated the intelligence leak. Japanese coordination collapsed for 3 days. February 19th, a Japanese machine gun position controlled a crucial intersection, pinned down American patrols, killed 7 Filipino scouts. Wehrmath approached from the flank. Solo operation crawled 200 wide, reached the position unseen, dropped grenades into the gun pit. 3 enemy soldiers died. The position fell silent. Between February 3rd and March 15th, Wehrmath participated in 32 documented operations. Not all resulted in kills. Some were reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, route mapping, but 23 operations produced confirmed casualties. He kept detailed records, Names when known, dates always, locations precisely marked, military precision, no exaggeration, no inflation of numbers. His personal count reached 112 by March 10th, 4 short of the published number. He didn't care about matching magazine claims, cared about effectiveness, about impact, about keeping Japanese forces uncertain, afraid, looking over shoulders. The wound from Calaguaman never fully healed. Leg functioned, carried him, but pain remained constant. Mobility reduced, speed compromised. He adjusted tactics accordingly. Shorter infiltrations, more team operations, less solo work. The results continued. Japanese casualties mounted. On March 18th, intelligence reported Japanese observation post on Mount Fuquet. Elevated position. Perfect visibility of American lines. Artillery spotters directed fire from there. Eliminated 31 Filipino scouts in 1 week. The position had to be taken or destroyed. Vermuth volunteered to lead the assault. Not infiltration this time. Direct attack. He assembled 12 suicide snipers, best shooters, most experienced, briefed them on the mission. Mount Fuquet was fortified. Japanese troops dug in, machine guns positioned, clear fields of fire, attacking uphill against prepared defenses. Suicide mission. Everyone understood. Everyone volunteered anyway. They moved out at dawn on March 21st. Approach from the eastern slope. Steeper terrain, harder climb, but less defended. Japanese command expected attacks from the south, from American lines, not from the difficult approach. Vermuth used their assumptions against them. The climb took 3 hours, slow, careful, silent. They reached the summit perimeter at 1,100 hours. Japanese defenders numbered approximately 40, dug into fighting positions, sandbags, timber reinforcements, professional construction. Taking this position would cost lives, many lives. Vermuth signaled the attack. 12 Filipino scouts against 40 Japanese soldiers. The fighting was immediate, brutal, close range, grenades, rifles, hand-to-hand combat. No retreat possible on either side. The summit was too small, too exposed. Victory or death, nothing between. The battle lasted 36 hours, not continuous combat. Surges of violence, pauses for repositioning, more attacks. Japanese reinforcements climbed from the western slope, brought supplies, ammunition, fresh troops. American forces couldn't send help. Too far, too exposed. Vermuth's team fought alone. By March 23rd at dawn, 65 Japanese soldiers lay dead on Mount Fuquet, but 8 Filipino scouts had fallen, 4 more wounded critically. Vermuth had taken a bullet through his left chest. The round entered near his shoulder, exited below his ribs, punctured his lung. He was drowning in his own blood, and the Japanese still held the mountain. Filipino scouts carried Vermuth down Mount Fuquet. 4 men, makeshift stretcher from rifle slings and shelter halves, blood soaked through field dressings, bubbled from the chest wound, collapsed lung. Every breath was agony, every movement torture. The descent took 5 hours, slow, careful. Japanese snipers fired at the evacuation party, missed barely. Field Hospital number 1 received him at 1,600 hours. Same facility as January, same shortage of supplies, worse now, morphine completely exhausted, plasma nearly gone, surgical instruments sterilized by boiling, reused until they broke. Doctors did what they could, which was very little. The bullet had entered below his left clavicle, traveled downward at 30 degrees, punctured the upper lobe of his left lung, exited through his lower ribs, fractured the 9th rib, missed his heart by 2 in, missed his spine by 3. The wound was survivable under normal conditions with proper treatment, adequate supplies, rest. Bataan had none of those things. Doctors cleaned the wound, inserted drainage tubes, bandaged the chest, gave him sulfa tablets. That was all they had. No surgery possible, no anesthetic, no proper antibiotics. He would heal or die. His body would decide. They moved him to a recovery ward. 32 other wounded soldiers, most worse than him. Some wouldn't see morning. Vermuth stayed 8 days against medical orders. Doctors wanted 6 weeks minimum. Told him the lung needed time to reinflate, the ribs needed to set. Moving too soon would tear internal sutures, cause hemorrhaging, kill him. He ignored them. On March 31st, he left the hospital, walked out. Doctors protested, couldn't stop him. The suicide snipers had lost 11 men during his absence. Japanese forces adapted. Increased patrols, better security, more aggressive pursuit. The ghost tactics were less effective now. Enemy learned, adjusted, but the Filipino scouts continued operations. 71 more Japanese casualties in those 8 days. The mission continued with or without Vermouth. He resumed limited duties on April 1st. Couldn't lead attacks, couldn't climb, couldn't crawl, breathing hurt, moving hurt, existing hurt. But he could plan, could coordinate, could send teams on missions he couldn't join. His experience mattered. His knowledge mattered. Physical presence was secondary. April 9th brought the final collapse. General King surrendered Bataan. 78-0. 0-0 Allied troops. No more ammunition. No more food. No more hope. The defense had lasted 4 months, cost Japan thousands of casualties, delayed their invasion timeline, bought time for Australia, for India, for the entire Pacific theater, but it was over. Vermouth was with a scout patrol when surrender orders arrived 10 mi from headquarters. They didn't receive the message immediately, continued their mission, approached Japanese positions, realized something was wrong. Enemy troops weren't fighting, were celebrating victory. The Americans had quit. The patrol retreated, moved toward American lines, found chaos. Soldiers destroying equipment, burning documents. Some units ignored surrender orders. Planned to fight on as guerrillas. Others simply collapsed. Exhausted, starving, defeated. The organization dissolved. Military structure evaporated. Vermouth tried reaching Field Hospital No. 2. His chest wound needed attention. Drainage tube clogged. Infection spreading. Fever climbing. He needed medical care. The hospital was 3 mi through broken terrain, jungle paths, stream crossings, rocky slopes. He traveled alone, too weak to keep pace with retreating units, too slow. The chest wound had reopened during exertion. Blood seeped through bandages. His vision blurred. Fever distorted perception. He misjudged distances, misjudged footing, stepped on loose rock near a ravine edge. The fall happened at 14:30 hours April 9th. 20 FD drop. He hit rocks, landed hard, lost consciousness. When he woke, Japanese soldiers stood over him. 5 men, rifles pointed. They recognized him. The mustache, the Van DJK beard, the uniform. Bataan No, the ghost, finally captured. They didn't shoot. Orders specified capture alive if possible, intelligence value, interrogation, information about American guerrilla plans, officer knowledge, strategic details. Vermouth was valuable, more valuable alive than dead. They bandaged his head where it struck rock, didn't treat other wounds, marched him to a holding area. Field Hospital No. 2 was now Japanese-controlled, converted to prisoner processing. Vermouth joined hundreds of wounded American soldiers, waiting for what nobody knew. The Bataan Death March would begin tomorrow, but his injury spared him from that horror. Too wounded to walk, too valuable to execute immediately. The ghost of Bataan had become a prisoner, and his war was far from over. Japanese guards recognized Vermouth immediately. The ghost, the one-man army. They feared him, even wounded and captured, kept him isolated from other prisoners. Separate cell, extra guards, chains on his wrists. They remembered what he did to their comrades. 316 at Calaguaman alone. 116 total confirmed kills. They wanted revenge, but intelligence officers wanted information more. Interrogations began April 11th. Questions about guerrilla plans, about American strategy, about remaining forces. Vermouth gave name and rank. Nothing else. They beat him, used fists, bamboo rods, rifle butts. He stayed silent. The chest wound reopened, bled, became infected. Fever climbed to 104 degrees. He drifted in and out of consciousness. The Bataan Death March started April 10th. 78 zeros. 0 prisoners. Forced march to Camp O'Donnell, 65 m. No food, no water. Guards executed stragglers, beat those who fell. Between 7-0-0-0 and 10-0-0-0 men died on that march. Americans, Filipinos, most from Vermouth's units. The men he trained, fought beside, led. His injuries spared him from the march, too wounded to walk. Japanese command decided he was more useful alive, kept him hospitalized, minimal treatment, just enough to prevent death. He survived through May, June, July. The chest wound slowly healed improperly, scar tissue formed wrong, breathing remained difficult, would remain difficult for life. On May 25th, they transferred him to New Balabid prison, then Cabanatuan camp. September brought assignment to Lipa City, 500 prisoners under his command, building a runway for Japanese bombers. Vermuth organized sabotage, subtle, deliberate, wrong measurements, weak foundations. The runway buckled under bomber weight, collapsed. Japanese engineers never understood why. January 1943 brought another beating. Kidney damage. Back to hospital. April. Surgery by American doctor. No anesthetic. Warmoth endured. Survived. January 1944 brought more beatings, more hospitals. His body accumulated damage, scars, broken bones that healed crooked, permanent injuries. December 15, 1944. Hell ship or Yoku Maru. Unmarked transport. 1006. 120 prisoners crammed below decks. No ventilation. No sanitation. American bombers from USS Hornet attacked. Didn't know prisoners were aboard. Killed several hundred. Wormuth survived. Transferred to boxcars. San Fernando. 160 men per car. 26-hour journey standing. Man beside him died. Remained upright. No room to fall. January 1945. Shipped to Formosa. Another American bombing. Inora Maru hit. More prisoners died. Warmoth survived again. 4th Purple Heart awardedly. Army believed he was dead. Changed his status to killed in action. His family received notification. Held memorial services. Mourned transport to Japan, then Korea, then Mukden, China. Final prison camp. August 15, 1945. Japan surrendered. Soviet forces liberated Mukden. August 16. Found Wormuth alive, barely, 105 pounds. Down from 190. Skeleton, infected wounds, damaged organs, but breathing, living. SS Marine Shark brought him home. Arrived San Francisco, November 1st, 1945. Hospital evaluation showed 4 bullet wounds, multiple fractures, kidney damage, lung scarring, malnutrition, parasites, PTSD before that term existed. He was 29 years old, looked 50. Reporters asked about his exploits, about the 116 kills, about being the ghost of Bataan. Wormuth deflected credit, told them 90% belonged to Filipino scouts. They were the real heroes, the best soldiers he ever knew. He just happened to be there, right place, right time. He received the Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, 4 Purple Hearts, Philippine Defense Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, World War Roman II Victory Medal. The decorations felt hollow. 300 men from his suicide sniper teams died, most in the death march, others in prison camps. Medals couldn't replace them. Arthur Wormuth survived the war, but the war never left him. The ghost of Bataan became a shadow of what he was, a reminder that heroism costs, that victory requires sacrifice, that some battles never truly end. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor, hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day.